And we're live. Great Thursday, and welcome to Conscious Discussions. I'm here with my, I call him my spiritual coach, Anan.
Well,
And
conscious guide. Let's do it. Conscious guide. Hi, Chris.
okay, Conscious God, I like that. So, how you doing today, Anan?
I'm doing great, and you?
I'm doing excellent. I know you just came back from pretty much a retreat of some sort, correct?
Yeah, I was on the Nile on a cruise, helping 60 change makers to find harmony and coherence. And it was absolutely amazing for everyone, including me, and to, at the very least, to see how groups and communities can get together and start the journey being, totally in cacophony, and then slowly but surely, or actually quite quickly, they start to merge together and find coherence, and all that thanks to one key aspect, which is to balance the feminine and the masculine, which may be a topic to talk about in the next session or two.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So, what would you say was the most rewarding experience that you had on that on the retreat?
On that specific retreat, the most rewarding was, well, I guess there are several. One is to have been able to help on the fly, individuals for whatever challenges they were meeting,
Hmm.
and having, very short sessions, 15 minutes, and being able to make a huge difference for them. And the other was to use the temples. So, in Egypt, we have a lot of different temples that are technologies as well to enable transformation and transmutations. And so we're able to really use them to help that transformation to happen. And it was blatant how fast that was enabling the transformation to happen at the group level. So yeah, that was really something. And
Excellent.
we're going to repeat this. So we're going to offer harmony retreats on the Nile as well in the next months to come, in the next quarters at least.
Interesting. And so, how long? Can you give us a little details, a little more details about the Harmony Retreat from a context? How many days?
It will be still the same format, like 6 days, right? So exactly what we have for the Pyrenees in France, but in another context, using this case Egypt as a environment and a context. But the program is the same. We would still have outings in the afternoon or maybe in the morning, etc., etc.
Excellent, excellent. You know, I had been continuing to read your book, I is Born, and I came up with some questions today to kind of ask you that came out of my mind, or it came to my mind, I'm sorry, as I read the book. So I just kind of want to throw some words at you and kind of get your definition or explanation on those words. And so the first word I should start with, let me say the first question is, what do you do to show up present? Like, if I really want to be present, now I know what I believe being present means, but I just kind of want to get your thoughts on what it means to be fully present from the spiritual alignment context.
So when you ask the question, "What do you do to be present?" it sounds like an oxymoron in the sense that you do, but therefore you're not present. So I totally understand where it's coming from anyway. And so how to be present might be a slightly better formulation.
Okay.
And because presence starts from the beingness, right? And so to be present is to be aware of what is happening now in this very moment. So instead of, sometimes we tend to be in the past or in the future, or thinking about what I should be doing or what I have been doing, or etc., etc., and the list is infinite. And we are, in that case, not now. So the key is really to be fully present is, if we look at space and time, In space, it's to be in this body. In time, it is to be now, which is the only thing that exists anyway. So that summarizes our presence to one dot, which is this vehicle, right? And that enables you to access the light that you have within, that only wants to shine, but it's not allowed to because you're here, there, not present,
Okay.
right? Does that make sense? So, in
It
a
does.
pragmatic sense, does that make sense?
It does. It
Okay.
does. And that leads to my next series of questions. And again, I'm just want to throw words out at you. You know, one word about. I really these words jumped out at me from your book, and I just kind of wanted to have you kind of delve deeper into your meaning behind these words. So the first word would be persistence.
Mm, persistence. It's actually the word of this week that we're using on social media. Persistence. Well, the thing is, as we become more and more conscious leaders, what starts to take hold is the world that we have inside ourselves, the vision, the heart vision we have inside ourselves, right? That is the one that is true. What is outside of ourselves, between quotes, meaning reality or our environment, has yet to catch up with it, basically. And so persistence starts to become key because if I abandon my inner vision to the benefit of the outer environment, then I lose myself, right? I lose that space, that conscious space of me. And so persistence is about continuing focusing on that true vision that we hold, which makes us the leader of our life, the leader of the conscious leader of our businesses, etc. So that reality can start to bring in all the components of it,
Hmm.
right? So, so it's reaffirming again and again and again the vision that we have, we hold dear, we love, so that we can align with it faster. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, it does.
How does that? How would that be useful for you in your life right now?
Well, it would be useful in the context that after having to do a pivot in my business at this particular stage and age in my life, that being persistent to the new direction I'm going in,
Yes.
despite the challenges that's coming at me. And there's challenges obviously with launching a new book, launching a new um, strategy session, building new relationships, and a part of that is obviously raising capital, failing. I like to say it in the context, failing my way to success, but being persistent to the goal of, regardless of the the challenges that I meet, the roadblocks, overcoming those.
Right. And it links to something interesting also. I just was reflecting while you were saying that. It's also for the leader, the conscious leader, to dare to be himself,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
And I wouldn't say against all odds because that would be too dramatic. Um, it just to dare to have that vision and go for it, right? And let the reality bend to it because it can, because that's what it wants anyway.
Hmm.
But obviously, it takes courage, it takes time, it takes persistence to be able to do that.
You know, that's an excellent segue into my next question, which which I believe that in order to be that persistent, as you say, and to let reality bend the way it does, you have to have a certain amount of trust.
Yes,
So
very much
trust.
so.
So my next word is trust.
Well, for all this magic to happen, and it's not magical per se, it's really mathematical, I guess. One needs to trust. That's super important. It's one of the stepping stones, found, at the foundation of everything. And so when we're saying trust, it's opening our heart, trusting, knowing that everything that is coming my way is there not only for a reason, not only it is perfect, but it is there to help me grow and become a better leader, just to take that angle, right? And therefore to get faster towards my vision, whichever it is. Now, sometimes it may feel like a left field kind of ball, right? These obstacles you were mentioning earlier, but they are there to help you actually let go of a belief system that is hampering you to get to your goal, to your vision, right? So that's why it is so important to trust the process itself. Because when you do so, not only do you recover faster, not in the sense that you fell, but more that you see it, you accept it, you embrace it, you let it go, right? So it
Yes.
starts to become something easy. And as you do that, you get the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And very quickly, very, very quickly, you have covered so much ground that you didn't see it because you're not moving forward in a linear fashion, but in a holistic one. So if something, is let go of, all of a sudden you've got a huge aspect of your project that comes to fall in place super quickly. So trusting the process, trusting life, trusting therefore your reality, and more importantly, trusting yourself. Because in the end, you are worth it. But most of the time, we do not trust ourselves. So, in other words, trusting our heart that it is leading us in the right direction, right? But obviously, if I judge myself, if I have a poor opinion of myself, or I believe that I do not have any value, blah, 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 then the heart cannot do anything but to lead you to the place where you can let go of that, to get back to what I was saying earlier. So
Hmm.
once, so therefore, in that scenario, an event shows up to help me to let go of that belief. If I do so, then all of a sudden freedom happens. It starts to flow faster than before.
Hmm.
Maybe I choose not to solve it and let it go, and therefore something else will come from a slightly different angle for me to again make that transformation happen. And so it's like, to give you another way of explaining it, it's you have such a beautiful light inside you that is there to light up these aspects that are still in the shadow, and that are slightly underway because you're still insisting too much on it. So and therefore it curves your pathway. I don't know if you know the theory of relativity in quantum physics, but basically one of the aspects is when there's a planet, it curves the space-time continuum. So you have a curve around the planet. So same thing happens with your beliefs, with your traumas, etc. They imagine it as a planet, and therefore when you encounter that planet, instead of going straight, you go around it. And so but it's showing itself so that you can straighten it out,
Hmm.
you see. And when that happens, then you're free on that angle. That doesn't mean that there are no other angles. There may or may not be, right? So we're just discussing one aspect, obviously. But the whole thing works only if you trust. If you have that vision, you follow it, you see you have the presence to it, right? And you have that trust that sustains you, I guess, right? And the faith that this is coming your way one way or another, in any case. Yeah.
Yes. Now, what I'm thinking as you describe that, and I definitely want to go to the next. You said a keyword faith, so that's the next one I want to
We'll
go
get there.
with. But before I go to faith, I wanted to just get a little more clarity. So, would you say that in order to trust myself, do I have to be in alignment with myself? Does that come first from a order standpoint, or is it more of a simultaneously it can come together at the same time as you're?
Both happen at the same time.
Hmm,
There is it's imagine it as a virtuous cycle between one and the other, right?
hmm,
Uh, if I trust myself, therefore I align faster. If I align faster, therefore I trust, etc., etc.
hmm,
Now, what's the chicken and what's the what's the egg? I mean, the alignment is probably a consequence of several factors or several feelings. The core one is loving yourself, right? If I love myself enough so that I trust myself, to start with that aspect, therefore the alignment will happen faster,
hmm,
right? So the one on which you can have an intention or an intentional choice is trusting. You cannot will or choose alignment. Yes, you do, but like a background intention, right? Does that make sense?
yes.
But every single moment you can choose trusting, 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 which links us to the word paranoia and pronoia, right? Whether you always have a choice to live in a world that I look at from a paranoia standpoint, where everything out of my control will always uh, fall down in one way or another. Or I can choose to live it from a pronoia standpoint, where everything in my world is coming to help me and support me and nurture me, etc., etc.
Hmm,
That's a choice. We all have that choice in our hands if we want to, right? Unless you continue on autopilot, which is another scenario. But so, as a conscious leader, we have to make these choices. Anything that goes towards limiting ourselves, right? Like not trusting or being paranoia, will hamper our capacity to live our vision. Now, the next question is, okay, if you look at all your world, where are you still paranoical? In each moment, where is that thought that all of us say, oh no, I should be doing this or that, or I should not call that person because he's going to do that, whatever, right? um, and that also is another type of work you can do to detect and accelerate your capacity to trust yourself. And the trust in yourself, from the trust of yourself, um, derives the trust in the others.
hmm.
Okay, the only person in the world that you can trust is you. Funnily enough, 99% of people in this world do not trust themselves.
Right, right.
So, who's going to start?
It's a great
Will
point.
you dare trust in yourself? We were talking about daring earlier. Will you dare doing that?
I think that's key and that's pivotal, but that's a great question. Absolutely.
So, what's the answer?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. On this quest, I am that is pivotal, trusting in myself. Uh, being persistent. Everything we're going to discuss today is definitely in direct alignment with where I see myself on my journey of not only self mastery, but of being the conscious leader to become the best conscious leader I actually can become, which is my quest and my goal.
Mm,
And within that, that brings the next a word to mind, which is faith.
mm. Again, same thing. Will you have faith in yourself?
Mm,
Right? In
yes,
the end, it's always about that, right?
right.
It's all about you falling in love with yourself. Faith is one angle of it. And so you have that inner vision. Will you trust it? Will you have faith in it beyond whatever is being shown to
Mm,
you? Whether it's someone making a comment saying that you will not be able to do it, or just a series of things that are not flowing in that direction. If it's not flowing, then maybe it's another direction that needs to be taken. But
mm,
at least I have the faith to follow life's guidance
yes,
and trusting that it leads me to the right place again and again and again. And so all of a sudden you have a rock solid faith slash trust in you, in your life, etc., in the others. And there is no other possibility for your reality but to provide you with what you want. Not what you want, what is in your heart's vision, that perfect tune of you.
absolutely. I would say I'm led by faith. I'm gonna misquote Dr. Martin Luther King, but he talks about faith is having the confidence to step up to the next step without seeing the full staircase.
Right. Awesome.
You know, and for me, faith is paramount to how I function, how I think, and how I operate because of the higher purpose that drives me, that gets me out of bed, that dominates my thoughts.
But the one who has faith is you. And the one in whom you have to have faith is you too. Right? So
Yes.
it becomes, yes, you're stepping in onto a step that doesn't necessarily exist, and that's okay. But it's all about you anyway.
Mm.
So it's easy. And it shouldn't be even an afterthought or even a forefront for thought for that matter. So if you dare to be you, therefore you have faith in you, therefore you trust in yourself, and therefore it just happens.
And what really guides my faith and trust and my alignment for me, it starts off with being grateful. And because that sets the context for me to have that trust. Because I look at the things, and it's not necessarily grateful for things I've accomplished, it's being grateful for being alive,
Hmm.
being able to think, have sound mind, having the little things, hearing, friendship, love, being grateful in that space first.
Mm.
Then everything else begins to build off that, right? And one of the questions I always like to ask people, and I'm just curious to see what people's thoughts are. And I want to ask you this question as well. What would you say you're most grateful for? And it's kind of a two-part question. Does that change weekly, daily, or is it just a blanket inclusion statement?
Inclusive statement, you said?
Yes.
What
Like
do you?
other words, meaning that you may say this week, or like for me, I'm always grateful for those things I talked about, my ability to see, hear, walk, talk, have sound mind. Then I may add other things to make it inclusive, to adding that to that grateful statement. So my question is, what are you most grateful for? And does that statement change? Like this week, I'm grateful for
Ah, okay.
this. The next week, I'm grateful for that, or you just add those to that
Uh,
kind of grateful statement?
I am grateful to be on my heart's vision
Hmm.
every day, to have another step towards it. And, my heart's vision is not a goal, it's the journey, right? In the end.
Right.
So
Right.
even if it's formulated as a goal, the end game is the actual journey. So, and I'm grateful to be me because, frankly, I'm awesome. uh, and it's nice to hear it from other people. But the bottom line is they cannot see that if I don't see it myself, right? So, in my special tune and special way of being, I am unique and amazing. And so I'm grateful for it, but in a very humble way, not in a way where it would be egotistic to see it that way.
Hmm.
So so it's kind of discovering oneself every morning and every day from a different point of view and being grateful for that.
Hmm.
So how can you discover yourself tomorrow and be bewildered by it?
Yes. Yes. You know, I challenge myself on a weekly basis to do something new,
Uh-huh.
add something new to my life, either a new routine or read a new, instead of reading for 1 hour a day, read for 1 hour and 30 minutes. Instead of reading for 1 hour and 30 minutes, read aloud for 1 hour and 30 minutes. Try a new exercise routine. Um, try a new recipe while I'm cooking. Something that just gets me out of my comfort zone and just forces me to really be present and focus on learning something different that I've never experienced before. That to me is a nice way of just really having something to look forward to. It's an incentive to, but I can only do that after I accomplish all the other tasks I have. So
Hmm.
for me, it's a reward at the end of the day to say, here's my new task. I just look at that as a part of living. And that to me kind of leads to my next word that I want to ask you about, which is, I think a word that a lot of people may not necessarily, I mean, they may understand the intellectual definition of it, but not how to apply it. And that is grace.
Okay. Oh, yes, that's a beautiful word. Before I get into that, may I actually, it's going to be a very nice segue into it. Um, Instead of challenging yourself, as you were mentioning earlier,
Hmm,
what if you would be playing at a new activity, right? And that is quite interesting what it implies.
hmm,
A challenge will, yes, put you out of your comfort zone for sure, and all that you're doing is amazing, uh, but it's kind of forcing you to do this, right? And so you need a bit of discipline and whatnot. Just great, why not? But now there may be a more graceful way of doing the same that helps you to be in a state of welcoming it, looking forward to it, and actually doing it seamlessly, which is to play. So here's my playtime, 2 hours a week or 2 hours a day, whichever. And I want to try something new and it's exciting, etc. So, in other words, opening up to your inner child in this case and start
hmm,
expressing that other aspect of you that is not necessarily scheduled or organized or right the serious mental aspect of you and that is going to play with grace,
hmm,
meaning the state of grace is a state of perfect flow where all of a sudden everything, meaning whatever you feel, whomever you feel to be you now, whatever is the environment at that time, is all perfectly flowing together. There is no asperity, there is no difference, no segregation.
hmm,
It's all, like again, like our surfer on the wave or the boat the sailing boat on the ocean. It's one. It's that aspect of oneness, and that is grace. And you know you can feel it now. We just tend not to experience it
Mm.
in our day to day because we're so, again, dispersed in so many aspects.
Yes.
And but it is there for us. It is there for us, and it's up to us to activate it. And playing is a door that we can take to get there for sure.
I like the idea of playing. I like that. I'm gonna explore that more because my logical thinking, that's the system engineering to me. Everything is so logical and challenging and in that context. But I had never thought about it. That's kind of a paradigm shift for me for sure.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna definitely think about playing in the context of just go for the enjoyment of it and not so much of testing myself and challenging myself and putting that rigor on my consciousness, but just
Mm-mm,
go with the flow, as you say.
mm-mm, mm-mm. And at some point, maybe and maybe not, you will be in that state of grace.
Hmm.
State of grace is where it just happens. There's no question, there is no worries.
Hmm.
This is, and that is a graceful place or grateful moment, right?
Yes.
And it's beautiful. It's pure harmony, in other words, if we want to look at it that way too. Uh,
Yes.
a symphony from Mozart is graceful per se. It flows and it's beautiful. Mozart just being one of them, of course.
Yes.
So yeah.
Which I think leads to the next word that I have, which is abundance.
Oh yes. So abundance is a concept that does not exist in the world of the mind, in the ego. The world of the mind in the ego lives in a finite world. It has to have limits. It is particle based, so to speak. It has to have structures and control and all that stuff. It's the masculine energy that is there to segment things and measure them. Therefore, it is antinomic to abundance, which is a flow of, right. So one has a conscious leader has to get into his own heart or her own heart in order to be able to live abundance. And that abundance expresses itself in so many ways, not just the financial one or the health one, etc., and ways that we don't necessarily qualify as such, right? So earlier we were talking about gratitude and faith, etc. Well, if we were in gratitude of the amazing air we're breathing, we have such an abundance of it, right?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
the light, or the rain, or I don't know. Or if you go and plant something on the ground, it's going to grow and grow and grow and never stops to grow, and it's pure abundance. But still, again, it's a difficult concept for the mind to grasp
Hmm.
and accept and live because it may stop at one point or another, right?
Right.
And so we're going back also to this way of being, which has to be, again, looking at trusting oneself and loving oneself and be grateful for oneself. Once I am there, then I am ready to accept more and more abundance, which again shows in many, many ways. So we were talking earlier about that retreat in Egypt on the Nile on a cruise for 3 weeks. It happened a week before I left. Nothing was, it just came on its own. And I did not know what was going to happen. I just followed and went, and it has been absolutely amazing for everyone. So we don't know how things unfold. We could not presume of them. Our mind cannot. Our heart knows already. So what if we follow it and therefore we meet with abundance that is there for us all the time? Again, not necessarily as we were expecting it. Most likely not,
Mm.
but it is there for sure.
You know, my next question, or and this is something that again intellectually I definitely understand the definition of it. I know how, but I think it's an expression people use quite a bit, and I know from my experience it comes from the Bible. You know, when God says, "I am that I am," right? And a lot of people are using that term, "I am," and I just kind of wanted to get more clarification around that because you have that in your book as well.
Hmm.
So my question would be, what is meant when you make the statement "I am" from the context of the alignment and spiritual growth and everything else we're
Hmm.
building on right now?
So much is being said in these two words. I'm going to start with I am that I am, which is the foundation of your being and mine and all the people that are listening. I am that I am is a pure truth that I am the one that I am. It's not bad, right? In the
Right.
end, I am Christopher King and I am that. I mean, it's kind of a circular reference, but it is a truth. And I mean, you can't do much better than that in terms of truth and in terms of foundation on which you can be you, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if I let go of Christopher King for a moment, I am that I am refers to this unconditional love that you are at the very bottom of you. Okay. And on top of that, we have another layer, which is I am. I am, for instance, male, or I am Christopher King, etc., etc. And that I amness is starting to differentiate itself from the others. It's where that I am meets the body, so that there is a process of identification starting to happen. And then that I becomes alone, right? Even if he's all one at the same time. So that I becomes starts to have roles or actions. So I am this with that or with whom, right?
Mm.
Or I do this and that. And this is who I am. I am doing this and that. You know, what do you do? Here you go. I'm an accountant. Sure, much more than that. But then that's what you identify to, and therefore you're hypnotized by it. You're lost into it, and that's okay. That's amazing. But then again, maybe you can be also aware and conscious of not only the I do, but the I am this with whom, and then I am this. And ideally, I am that I am. So you see, I can be conscious of all the different layers at the same time. It's a choice. You can be, in a linear fashion, be aware of one of the layers or all of them together, or choose a specific layer. So, first scenario is autopilot, second scenario is being all that he is, and the third scenario is intentionally choosing one aspect.
Mm.
The I amness of you is to be all that you are and not limiting yourself to one aspect.
Mm.
But again, it is a choice. By having trust and faith and grace in that place of grace, by accepting all that is around you and basically growing that love for yourself, you are becoming I am that I am again. You're going back to the fold, to your essence. And therefore, you are letting go of all these identifications that that were populating your now moments. And so, from that place of I am that I am, I can still continue creating and go towards his own vision because it's fun, it's play. Does it matter? Not necessarily, but it's really fun to do it.
Yes. And you know, again, these your answers are definitely excellent segues into my next question because as I build upon, as you say, the persistence and through that persistence, trusting myself and that trust increases and grows my faith. Now I'm getting to the grace moment and I begin to see abundance and things such as not just the, as you say, monetarily or health wise, but just abundance in life, the abundance of nature, the
Hmm.
abundance of learning, the abundance of opportunity, right? And then I get into now exploring and playing, and I realize I am, and I am multi-dimensional individual in that
Hmm.
context.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, within that, how do I control ego and not let ego now take me in a different direction and make me feel like I'm superior or better or more privileged or whatever the ego is trying to tell me at any particular given time.
That question does not pertain anymore to the world you just described.
Mm,
It doesn't exist.
mm,
Not saying that the ego does not exist. I'm saying there is no more need of any control whatsoever.
mm,
When you are in that place we were describing, that I am that I amness, ego is still there. Yes, it is part of the I am that I am. There's no need of denying it. There is no need of controlling it either, because it is fulfilling its role, a role, in aspect of all that you are, but not just that. So all of a sudden, instead of being your ultimate expression, it is part of your expression.
mm.
And control is not part of the equation. It is not needed because you're in that state of flow of yourself with life, right?
Right.
You're in a state of grace ultimately all the time. And in that case, uh, uh, ego is, to give it a name and a label, is in that flow at the same time. It is part of it.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood. This has definitely been very helpful in getting a lot of things clearer in my mind as far as how to process the new information that I'm
Hmm.
actually learning. And my next question would be, and this is something I wanted to get a little more clarity in your book as well. And again, I believe I understand the intellectual answers of what these two words are defined by or what their definitions are in the Webster's dictionary, so to speak. But as we begin this spiritual journey and understanding how everything relates to the alignment, what is the difference between sureness and certainty?
Hmm.
Or is there a difference in your mind in that context?
Very good question. I guess certainty is it's a knowing that something is going to occur or is true, etc., etc. Sureness is more the attitude I may have towards such certainty, for instance. So, in other words, I'm sure about me taking the steps, right? We were talking about steps earlier in that faith. So, the way I feel it, it's sureness is more a dynamic
Hmm.
process, while certainty is more of a static knowledge or knowing of something, a truth, a purpose, a vision, etc., etc. That's the way. I mean, that's my interpretation. I'm not saying this is the one, but
Right. Right.
that's the one that feels true.
Okay. Now, my next question is definitely something that really I think is timely with kind of what's going on in the news recently with all these mass
Mm.
killings, right? And then you hear politicians, they have their agenda and they seem to express compassion, but it doesn't seem very authentic in
Hmm.
their expression of it. Like they'll say, well, I'm going to keep you in my thoughts and prayers, or I wish the family, the victims, the best. And you can't really believe that and then still continue the same behaviors you had prior to that when you have the power to probably make some differences or make some changes.
Mm.
So I use that as an example, but even in your own personal life, in relationships, you're dealing with individuals on a regular basis, family, friends, businesses, or clients, etc. How do you make sure that you are expressing compassion, been sincere and authentic in that expression of compassion, and you're conveying that the other person feels that energy from you, and it's not just some words that you're just saying for the moment.
Um, I mean, it depends on your intention, right? This is your world, so if you open your heart and really mean it, it will be perceived as such.
Hmm.
Sometimes it may not be perceived as such too, because that person may not be ready, or you are not ready for her to receive it. So compassion only exists in your heart, and you are pouring it towards that aspect that is being expressed, and you express it to the best of your ability, and that's enough. Now, when you are observing someone else doing so and you are looking at it and judging it
Hmm.
as being authentic or not, etc., you are not necessarily in tune with such compassion. You may have had compassion for that politician as well, but that's not what you chose. So, any event in our lives or obstacles we were talking about earlier are all there for us to figure out if we want to continue identify with whatever is being shown or not. And so, if an event triggers me, then there is something there that I can grow out of and let go of that belief system that doesn't serve me anymore.
Hmm.
So, in that context of what you were describing, how does that event, and more importantly, how you reacted to it, serves you? And maybe it does, and then you continue doing the same, or you choose otherwise.
Hmm.
What I mean, serve you is, does it help you to be the best version of yourself?
Right.
The one that is expanding itself instead of the one that is limiting itself.
Right. Right. You know, one of the words that really stood out to me, well, several words really stood out, but one that I always have looked at as aspiring to, and I say this word is freedom,
Hmm.
right? And freedom to me has a lot of connotations to it: freedom of choice, freedom of actions, freedom of uh, thought, freedom of being able to trust myself, uh, have the grace, all the things we talked about before. And so, when you wrote freedom in your book, how was you? What was your interpretation of freedom in that context?
I do not know because that was the Arno from a year ago, and I'm not him anymore. So we'll have to refer to the book for that answer. But in essence, I guess, I mean, today's answer would be to have the freedom to love myself
Hmm.
by letting go of all the limiting beliefs or traumas or emotions that are not allowing me to do so,
Hmm.
and not allowing me to do so because I chose them, right? They were there in the first place because they were valid for some time. And so it's part of it. It's part of that back and forth, that dance between me and me. But it's, you know, why not choosing freedom for ourselves now, in this now moment? And that freedom should be about loving more, opening our heart further.
I love that answer because I think that's an excellent bookend to our conversation as well. Because you know this last 3 weeks has really been a from a just a spiritual context, a really trying with all the violence happening. I mean, just last night another mass shooting, you know, and it seems to be no end in sight. So, as you say, getting to the point we have the freedom to love ourselves despite that, and that to me is what my questions were all centered on.
Mm,
It's getting to the point where I still can be persistent, be present, trust, faith, be grateful, have grace, focus on abundance, despite everything else going on in my life. So
mhm.
I want to thank you for, excuse me, the time you invested today and the energy as well, and answering the questions and helping me think through these things. And I'm hoping that our discussion will also resonate and be helpful for our listeners as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So as we wrap this up, do you have any other parting words you want to share? And again, obviously, definitely share your contact information so folks can get more information about your retreats.
Yeah, if people wants to learn more, we're gonna disclose the Heartful method. If they go to tapwell.com/harmony, we're gonna release a lot of information about that journey we are on, in a very didactic way. So tapwell.com/harmony. And yeah, please, let's have fun together.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you, Arnon, for this conscious discussion
You
this week. Thank you for taking the time, and I appreciate you and wish you a blessed remaining part of your day.
likewise.
Thank you.